Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Oh, I left my little placeholder chat in there. Yes, this is going to be a good live stream today, and thank you all for joining. Good to see everybody here in the chat. I see lots of comments already and a few questions coming in, so we will make sure to get to those. I have been very, very busy today, or this whole week, so I don't have a lot of new things other than what I've been working on, which is this stand. So we will definitely talk about that in a little bit, and of course, answer questions. So let me start with a few questions I saw at the beginning, which came in, and then we will go ahead and go over to the table, and I'll show you some stuff in about the stand. I'm really excited about the stand. Yes. So yeah, I saw a question here about clarifying some of a comment I made last week, 2 weeks ago. I don't really remember when it was, talking about backup streams and the backup YouTube stream. I mentioned that you don't have to push the same content to both places, to both the primary and the backup, and you can use that for like a failover if you can stream to it from a different location. And I guess I forgot to mention that the one sort of downside with that plan is that YouTube doesn't auto resume back to the primary when that becomes available. You have to tell it, or you have to stop the backup stream in order for it to switch back to the primary. So it's like it has to fail over again, which is not quite the way I want it to work, but it does end up still working out just fine. As long as you can tell the backup stream to stop, it'll then fail back to your primary. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it still is a pretty good solution. Rick says, just received my Extreme ISO from DVE Store. Awesome. Thank you for using my link. Any thoughts as to the best hard drive for ISO recordings? I have been a fan of both the SanDisk Extreme. So let me drop a link to that one. SanDisk Extreme is what I've been using, as well as the Samsung T5. And I have both of those, and I have used both of those with all of my ATEMs. They work great. I have now heard that people have now had success with the Samsung T7s since some of the latest firmware updates in the ATEMs. So that one didn't work at the beginning when they first released the Pro, but the T7s, I've heard those now work. I don't actually have one myself, but I have been very happy with both of those drives as options. Again, reminder, if you do want to get my attention in the chat, then you can either mention my full name at Aaron Parecki or send a super chat, which will definitely get my attention. And with any luck, we might have a surprise again for the super chats. Okay. Will we see the new Extreme stand? We certainly will. Can a key fill signal be sent from a computer via HDMI, or does it have to be SDI? Well, there is no SDI inputs in the ATEM Mini line, and it does not actually matter which HDMI or SDI your key and fill are sent from. The only thing to keep in mind when doing it from a computer is you're going to want to make sure you're using like a proper piece of software to output both key and fill channels, because it goes out as separate video signals, and they have to be perfectly in sync for that to work. So that's the only one thing to keep in mind. I have been enjoying the cherry blossoms a lot on my bike rides to and from here. So yeah, it's been really nice weather the last couple of days. Oh, hey, there we go. And that is a super chat from Tech Condo. Thank you. I really liked your video, by the way. Tech Condo did a video about a video review of the ATEM Mini stand after receiving it, and it was very sweet. Thank you for doing that. And I appreciate the super chat. Oh yeah, I still didn't get the comments coming through on that. Okay, let me see what else I've got here in the chat. Looks like DSK bleeding gone now. I'm not sure what that was about. Oh yeah, Blackmagic does update the list of recommended hard drives, so you can always go and check that list. Those are ones that they actually test. Oh, this is a good one. Cajoling Technology says, I use AWS Elemental to do the auto failover, and you can set it so that when primary comes back, it goes back to primary. Yeah, I would imagine, I would hope that like real streaming solutions, not just YouTube, real streaming solutions would do that properly. YouTube's live streaming is definitely not a pro level thing, but it does work and it is free. Tim says, I bought a MixEffect G2 and it plays video but no audio of video recorded from my ATEM Mini Pro. Any setting in the Spec G2 or ATEM Pro that I need to change? I noticed that too. I had that same problem. I was trying to use this for something. I was trying to record a program on the ATEM Mini to an SD card, pop it into the Mica spec and play it back, and the audio didn't come through. I'm guessing it's because the audio codec that the ATEM uses is not one that the Mica recognizes, which is really too bad. The only solution is to transcode the video. So if you run the video through a transcoder using whatever, doesn't matter, you can bring it into a video editor program or run it through FFmpeg or probably Handbrake. If you can figure out the right Handbrake settings, any of those, then the Mica spec can play it again. But the audio codec that the ATEM records at is not compatible with the Mica, unfortunately. So, sorry, yeah, one limitation there. Have you heard about the ATEM Extreme ISO dropping connection when streaming less than 1 megabits, then reconnecting after 3 to 5 seconds, mainly when streaming still images? No, I wouldn't be surprised though if it's the thing you're streaming to that is dropping the connection, because the ATEMs encode in variable bitrate, so the bitrate's always changing to be more efficient when it doesn't need to use all the bandwidth. But then sometimes that means that the streaming platforms think that the connection is bad, and they will force it to reconnect. So I haven't seen it do that on YouTube. Like you'll notice that the beginning image, when I have just a still graphic, it's streaming at like 1 megabit for that, along with the music, and it's I haven't had any problems with YouTube. But that is not to say that other platforms might do that kind of thing. Any ideas on how to get the Mini or any ATEM mixer to do video follows audio? I have ideas, and I have not actually tried to build it myself because you have to write code to do that, and I haven't just dug into that yet. Basically, the SDK that Blackmagic provides for the ATEM does report audio levels out of each channel, which is how you can on the multi-view see the little audio meters, and you could write code to recognize those and then switch cameras. So at some point, I want that to happen, and maybe I have to convince some other developer to get that to work. We will see. Rasmus says, I tried the backup stream from other location, and oh, the confetti really gets my attention now. I'll come back to that. Cajoling Technologies, thank you. Here's the actual comment. I need to fix that. Love your streams. Do you think it's a bad time to get a Hyperdeck Studio Mini upgrade soon coming? That's a good question. The Hyperdeck Extreme is not new. It is, or the Hyperdeck Studio Mini is not new. It is several years old now. I will say the main reason I think it may get updated soon is because it doesn't support 1080 in 60 frames a second. It only goes up to 30. And because of that, it doesn't quite match with the rest of their products, which would otherwise be totally fine. Like it's definitely a question. On the other hand, like they already have a bigger Hyperdeck that does like, I think it's 8K even. So it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. They're not big on like upgrading, specific products that often. So, and it does work as long as you don't need 1080 60, but it does do 4K 60. It does 1080 all the way through. It doesn't do 4K 60. So that's the one question there. It's impossible to know. But yeah, thanks for the super chat. And Michael, this one didn't come through in the confetti. I think they were too close to each other, but thank you also. What's the best way to switch between a few super sources? Macros, loading separate XMLs, and if macro, how do you make sure you reset everything? Is there a good starting point macro? That is a good question. So if you, one of the things I like about the way that the super source works is that it is, it is effectively a separate camera angle you can switch to, whereas the upstream keys are not, right? The upstream keys are going to be placing a video somewhere, and then you can turn on that on top of whatever else is showing. Whereas the super source, you can build that scene, and you can even build it in your little preview window, and then you can just cut to it. So I can just press the button on the ATEM to cut to the super source, and now you are seeing the super source angle as if it were another angle. I do wish it would record an ISO of that, but that's a different problem. So you get one layout with the Extreme, with the ATEM Mini Extreme. And if you want to reconfigure that, the best way is definitely going to be using macros, because that'll switch all the settings internally as fast as possible. So you would need to be able to write a macro to reset your box inputs and do all that while it's not on the air, of course. Otherwise, you're going to end up with one frame glitches, and then bring it back on the air. And as far as your other part of the question here of resetting everything, this is why when I create macros, I like to pretend like the whole thing is sort of in a blank state to begin with. So if you assume that nothing about what you're seeing on the screen is like the current layout, then you have to just turn on every single setting when you're building the macro to restore it to the current state. One way to do that is to actually switch to a different camera angle, turn everything off, and then start recording the macro and make sure you actually are pressing every single button in it. Personally, I know that there's like people who don't mind copying and pasting XML templates and stuff. I have no problem with dealing with XML. That's not a problem for me personally, but it just seems faster to me to just click through the UI and press every single button all the time. So I don't really want to mess up my super source layout right now, but I will at some point, because I'm going to switch to my iPad, which I want to use the super source for, and then I'm going to need to add crops. So I will demonstrate that when I do that. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. When using Companion, how would you send a shortcut to another program that you control with OSC? I got Resolume Avenue as a clip player, but it blocks the second screen. When using Companion, so I thought Companion can send OSC commands if you're adding an OSC instance in Companion. Yeah, there's like the generic OSC instance, so then you can just make a companion actions for sending out OSC commands. All right, where was I? Oh, yes, color space of HDMI output. I haven't actually like tested this out myself, but the specs say it's all 10-bit. So I haven't like tried to force it to see how well it does that with the color ranges, but the specs on the Blackmagic website say everything is 10-bit. If you just go look up the website, it says color precision 10-bit, video sampling 422. Yeah, should just be that. Pro Presenter should be able to output a proper key and fill for the ATEM. I believe so. I haven't actually used Pro Presenter, but yeah, pretty sure it does. Is there anything I can record in 4K like ATEM Mini? By the way, do you know what's happening in Myanmar? Oh yeah, I saw you were joining from there. That's really scary. I'm glad you are at least safe enough to be on this video today. Thanks for watching. Recording in 4K like the ATEM Mini, I haven't seen mini versions of switchers that are 4K yet, like that, other than the Blackmagic 4K ones that don't have the recorder. So 4K recording, not a ton of options, but like the Hyperdeck Studio Mini can record 4K, but of course it's not a switcher. So that you would have to like add a switcher, one of the 4K Blackmagic ones, output to the Hyperdeck for recording. So it adds up really fast. It's a lot more expensive to do that. Yeah. Okay. Scrolling through the questions here. I'm looking for my name, so make sure you do mention @AaronParecki if you have a question. any good solutions for the lack of a power switch on the ATEM Minis? I just leave mine on. It's not that big of a deal in my opinion. Like, it's clearly meant to be left on all the time, otherwise they would have put a power switch. But I have also heard of people putting it on like Wi-Fi switches or a smart switch where you can control it from Companion, for example, or from your rest of your home automation system, and then you don't have to like go unplug the power cord, and that's kind of annoying. Can I record a MP3 file on the ATEM Mini? No, the ATEM Mini will only record a video file. It does not have an audio separate recording function. The mix bus on the Extremes make it easier to quickly switch sources for things like chroma key and super sources. That is true. That is true. However, there's no super source button on here, ironically, which is like the one that I actually wanted to use that top row of buttons for. I'm looking at the select bus. It has the DSK switcher, but oh, another super chat. Look at that. Yeah. Cajoling Technologies, thank you again. I'm going to fix my little overlays to have the text appear in there. Web presenter versus cheaper encoder. Okay, so I haven't totally finished like my review testing, putting the web presenter to the test yet. I have been trying it out. I have it running here. It's actually set up on my ATEM right now, so I can just switch to it as an input. It's not doing anything right now. It's just sitting there. But you might notice that it's actually currently sort of stuck. Like if you look at the data rate, it's frozen, which I don't believe is true. And it's too early to tell, but I've had some small problems like that with it so far. I feel like it's a little bit rough around the edges at the moment. I'm sure it's going to get fixed with firmware updates. And once it does, it is, as far as the feature set goes, extremely powerful. It's very good set of features on it if it worked reliably. And so far it's a little rough. So yeah, if you are the thing is, like, the encoder itself is really good. So the encoder is the same one as in the ATEM Minis. It's good quality, and the cheaper encoders definitely can also have problems with the actual encoding of like the video quality will be less. So I have a few of them. The one that I was using it for the 3D printer stream for a while. It has some definite problems with the like H.264 encoding. So yeah, I don't know. The web presenter, I really want it to work well because it is, I really like what they've done with that device. Okay. Be nice in the chat, people. I don't know what's going on. Be nice. Okay. Do you know when the MixEffect app will be available to the public? I do not, but there's a lot of good updates coming out on that app. I've been trying it out now and then. I need to do more proper testing with it. Okay. Scrolling through the questions. Best way to apply a LUT to your camera feed. Oh yeah, last time I mentioned the microconverter bidirectional, but it doesn't allow LUTs like the SDI or HDMI only ones. I got that backwards. So yeah, it's the, I know I don't want to say it wrong again. The only one of their converters supports LUTs on it, and I thought it was all of the new microconverter line, the 3G line. The SDI to HDMI, which is the one that has LUTs. Okay, the bidirectional ones do not support LUTs. Only the HDMI or vice versa ones support LUTs, but they also have a loop out if you're doing SDI, so you can use it as just a LUT applier. You don't have to use it as a converter. But also the other things that support LUTs are the monitors. So you'll find like the Video Assist and those kinds of monitors support LUTs. So that's probably like, well, depending on your rig that you're building, that's probably a better solution because then you can actually like see it right there. MixEffect is a few weeks out as far as the designer states. Okay, cool. The only thing holding me back from the new web presenter is that it's SDI input only, and I plan to use it as a backup encoder to the ATEM Extreme. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. It is meant for, it's not really meant to go with the ATEM Mini line. It's really meant for the, rack mount studio gear to add the streaming feature to that set of products. It's not really meant to be working alongside an ATEM Mini. Okay. Oh, question about Rodecaster. Can I use the ATEM Mini with a Rodecaster Pro? Is it a good idea? I know, so I don't have a Rodecaster. I haven't bought one. It's very expensive in my opinion, and I feel like it's not really, it doesn't match the feature sets I need for it, so that's why I haven't bought one yet. But like it seems like it's definitely geared for podcasting, multi-person productions, that kind of thing, like multi-person recording in a studio. So I haven't had a need for one. The audio features in the ATEM Mini are really good, and you can do a lot of audio processing in the ATEM Mini itself. But if you do want to connect like a XLR microphone, you need something. And I have heard good things about the Rodecaster from people who like it a lot, but I haven't bought one myself, so I don't have a lot of real experience or any real opinions that are based in much on it. I can recommend that you go watch Tom Buck, his YouTube channel, because he does a lot of videos about the Rodecaster specifically. And and he also has an ATEM Mini and does streaming and stuff. So he would probably have some better thoughts about using those two together. Any opinion on hanging out to the ATEM Mini Pro ISO? In addition to my new Extreme, the resale of the Pro ISO has dropped so much on eBay. Yep. I will say, okay, so the ATEM Mini Extreme is phenomenal. I cannot believe how much they packed into it. I love the super source feature. I like having all the upstream keyers. I've had to rely a lot less on fancy macros because I can just do more things with the Extreme itself. It's great. However, it doesn't really feel mini anymore. Like, every time I go back to the original ATEM Mini Pro, it's like, oh, that thing is cute. That is a good size. I can like throw that anywhere. And the ATEM Mini Extreme literally doesn't fit in my bag that I put on my bike. I have to wear a backpack to bring it around, which is like, it shouldn't require additional cases in order to carry it if you're calling it mini. Anyway, because of that, I do think that the mini version is worth keeping around for various things. And the ISO, maybe that extra $300 you're not going to use the ISO features on anymore, so maybe it wasn't worth it, and you could have held on to the Pro. But also $300 for 4 recorders is extremely cheap. So I don't know. I would hold on to it. I'm going to hold on to mine. I actually have it on the table over there, so I can go over there and switch between cameras on that table, which I'm going to do in a second. And when I'm not using it for this, I can, if I need to record 3 channels or 4 channels of video randomly, that's a fantastic device to use for it, which would otherwise be a lot of stuff to hook up. So yeah, I think I would hold on to it. That said, I am selling my ATEM Mini Pro because I don't need that many of them. And I actually I had a problem with it. The fan started making like a clicking sound, and I wrote into Blackmagic and got an RMA, and then they just sent back a new one in a box. So I have one that's new, shrink wrapped in box that I'm going to sell. So if you're looking for one, I will happily give you a good price on it. I see a lot of differing opinions on the Roadcasters in the chat. It's yeah. Oh, this is a good point. Yeah, to my point about the Mini is a lot more portable than the Extreme. I would have to make a very conscious decision to bring the Extreme somewhere to a gig, whereas I can fit the Mini in any bag and anything, and I'm not going to think twice about whether to bring that. So I would hang on to it. How much? I think I'm gonna. If anybody wants it for 500 in the U.S. shipped, I will happily sell it for 500 U.S. But go over to the forums. That's where I've posted about it. I'll drop a link in there, and we can talk there. Oh, thanks for the super chat. If I have one camera for the YouTube channel, live streaming, is there benefit to the ATEM Extreme versus a Stream Deck and Ecamm? Oh, that's an interesting question for just one camera. So here I'll drop a link to my. I'll just drop a link to the whole buy and sell category on the forums. The one camera. So if you're only doing one camera, then the ATEM Extreme is probably overkill. Definitely overkill. The ATEM Mini Pro would be good enough for one camera. As soon as you want to do fancier things with multiple sources, even if that's like computers or and not necessarily cameras, but multiple computers or graphics, the Extreme starts to be more useful. But Ecamm, so the main difference between these two is that Ecamm is going to be an entirely software-based version running in your computer. So the computer is responsible for the encoding and streaming and any graphics and overlays. And you do need a decently powerful computer to make it work well. And I will say I have run Ecamm on my M1 Mac Mini. I'm not over the moon about its performance, so I would probably want to go step up to something a little more powerful in order to use that, in order to rely on that. But it does also then give you more features easier in Ecamm, because it's all just sort of right there. You can do fancy overlays, graphics, and text and stuff like that. It's all just kind of built in. You can even do remote callers. I have a video about that. So if you search for Ecamm on my channel, you'll find a video I did about bringing in remote callers. It is a good program, but I don't like relying on the computers for doing the actual stream encoding and graphics processing, especially once you get more than one camera. So, yeah. Roland says, I use Extreme ISO for one camera. The super source alone makes a huge difference. Yeah, the super source is the main feature you get in the Extreme that's going to make that much of a difference, other than the 8 inputs. But if you're just doing one, I mean, if you really have only one input, you have nothing to do a super source layout with, unless you want to just inset it on top of some background graphics. But the super source is so cool that you can do that in hardware now. The multiple pictures shrunk down and resized and cropped. Patrick says Ecamm just released an update with native M1 support. Excellent. I'm gonna have to go try that again then. So I will have to go download that and check it out. That's good. That's good to hear. Okay, where was I? It looks like the chat overlay is putting some drop shadows. YouTube related? Drop shadow like under here? It on my screen it is perfectly crisp line. I don't see any fuzz. Could be YouTube encoding or YouTube's or the playback quality too. So try just, I guess, make sure you're on 1080, and otherwise it could just be YouTube being weird. And they have definitely been being weird the last couple weeks. Okay. When connecting older Mac laptop to the ATEM Mini, the color looks off on the ATEM Mini HDMI output. Any suggestions or ideas? Yeah, if you go into the Mac's display profile settings, there's a bunch of different options there, and try to find one there that looks good. I have noticed that too. This, I think I've got mine set up right now, so I can show you what that looks like in using SuperSource. So in your display preferences, there's a, oh my gosh, where is it? Displays. And then, oh dear. And then the color. Oh, shoot, geez. Okay, come on. There's only a couple profiles here. So I have just, because I'm actually running into the SDI what am I running into? I'm running into a Blackmagic converter first, SDI converter, and that is going into the SDI matrix. I'm not going directly into the ATEM, but when you plug into the ATEM, it'll have like a different one pop up. But just play around with these profiles until you find one that looks good, and you can just do it by eye, really. Forgot that the full screen browser goes away from full screen when you open up that window. Can you make a Discord server so we can talk to you about... okay, so I hang out most often in John Barker from Here to Record, his Discord, and it's a great place. A lot of good people there. A lot of people in this chat are also in that Discord. I think that's good enough for me right now. I don't want to have to manage that right now, a separate Discord myself. So I would recommend joining that Discord. And I don't have a link to it in this video, but if you look for Here to Record, any of his videos will have a link to the Discord server. So I'll just drop a link to his channel, and I'll say join John's Discord. Anybody figured out a matching sleeve for traveling with Extreme? I know, it's so big. It doesn't fit in laptop sleeves even. You can throw your ATEM Mini into a 13-inch laptop sleeve, and it's not a good fit, but it does work. It's too big for even like 15 or 17-inch laptop sleeves. So hopefully somebody makes one soon. How does bringing in a remote guest via WebRTC change now with the headphone jack? Use headphone jack as mix minus back into Zoom. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that because the headphone jack isn't quite mix minus, but you can solo output on the headphone jack. So you can say, I only want to hear audio from X. So if you are feeding a remote guest into the ATEM on like input 4, you could have your headphone jack output only input 4 so that you don't hear yourself or the final mix. So that could work. I'll have to try that. How is the Croatian course going? I am making progress. It is going well on week 4 and feeling pretty good about it. It's been a lot of fun. Can you use a macro to load an XML file? I guess it would have to be the last step of a macro. No, because the macros run stuff inside the ATEM only, and the XML file will be on your computer. But you theoretically, Companion could do that, could restore an XML file. I don't think there's actually an action for it, but like theoretically it could. And I don't know if that's, probably wouldn't do that. That seems weird. Like the macros are meant to be like a save the state thing, or not the macros. The XML file is supposed to be like a save state. So you can like just capture the current state of your whole ATEM, including all the graphics as a file, and then restore it onto other ones, or make snapshots for different shows and that kind of thing. In all the letterings. Oh, the drop shadows are in the letterings. I see what you mean now if I full screen it. There's a little, it's not perfect. I see some, oh, it's my key. It's my key that's not perfect. You can see it shining through there. That's what's going on. It's because I redid how the keys are set up on my thing to have the confetti at the top layer. Melon from OBS is probably better than Ecamm for single camera live streams, plus it offers the remote caller feature. I have never heard of that before. Interesting. I'll have to check it out. Okay, interesting. Melon from OBS. Keith, thank you for joining live. Chris says, do you have plans to add Twitch or Restream support to your chat overlay extension? I probably won't ever add Twitch myself, but if somebody else wants to, that's great. At some point, I do plan on adding Restream, unless somebody else beats me to it, because I have been using Restream for a couple of things, and I think that would be also a nice way to support a bunch of platforms faster than too. Have you checked out Zero Tier? It allows you to not have to use VPN for your ship a streaming kit in a box, even gets by double NAT. I did check out zero tier, and it was very, very confusing, even for I know a decent amount about networking, and it still threw me off. So I've been meaning to look at it again, but I really feel like the WireGuard setup works pretty well for VPN, and it is yeah, it's not too bad to set up a WireGuard system VPN, and then you also get to have a whole WireGuard VPN at your house, which is fun. Okay, I think I actually seems like I can't post Discord event links. Probably not yet. Oh, Peter, thank you for the super chat. This one beat the confetti this time. Any solution to download a recorded video from the ATEM while streaming? I heard FTP may be a hint. Yes. In fact, why don't we try that? Should we try that live? That sounds like a fun adventure. I'm going to plug in a hard drive to my ATEM Mini Extreme, the one that is currently streaming, and we can try it. So the ATEM Mini Extreme is, there's the confetti. Thanks for the super chat. So the ATEM Mini Extreme, this is the one that's busy streaming. Let me just make sure I'm not going to show my stream key. I am. Great. Okay. So I have a drive in here. Record all inputs onto that drive. I'm just going to go ahead and record a couple seconds of this, and then I can show you what this ends up doing. We are recording, and I will stop. We got 6 whole seconds, and then I'm going to, where is my FTP program? It is, okay, Nova is the one I have. This is what I've been using for, this is what I use for like editing stuff on my servers. So I have to go make a new server. No, I keep forgetting how to use this thing. New. I liked Coda. Coda was fine. I don't know why they had to change it. So this is the Extreme. We're going to use just FTP. It is 10.11.200.2, I think. Ooh, what's the username? I think it may not matter. Let's just try root. And then save that. And let's go and create an Extreme. Go log in. Oh, look at that. Okay, there's the drive. Showed up. And, oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff on this drive. So I have all the files on the drive are available. And somewhere in here should be, there's the one called live. And this is what it just did. It just recorded all the ISO files. Interesting that it added all the dot files too. That is interesting. Okay, so what I can do is let me grab a Finder window and not show you all the files on my computer. So what I can do is just drag these out of the ATEM over FTP. And that was pretty fast. Cool. And then I've got my camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4, camera 5, camera 6, camera 7, camera 8. All there. It's just like that. Pretty cool. And that was just using whatever random FTP program I had on my computer. So definitely doable. That was a fun little demo. Cool. And yeah, thank you for the super chat. Great. Okay. You should start a GoFundMe thing for the Restream chat feature on your browser extension. I'd chip in on that one. That suggests that I would have someone willing to get paid to do the work also, which is a whole different problem. What is your MacBook model? Well, this computer is actually an M1 Mac Mini, not a MacBook. And I really like having this just at the studio now. Super cool. But the MacBook, my work MacBook is a 16-inch, what is it called? The newest one. I don't know, MacBook Pro. I also have the 12-inch. My personal laptop is a 12-inch MacBook, the little tiny one, which I love the form factor of. But it's like 2017, so it's a little a little old. It's showing its age. Does it record sources that are not plugged in? It does. It will always record all 8, which is a little weird. You all just end up with blank recordings, but it does do, again, the variable bitrate recordings. So if we go back to my file system, you can see that like here's camera 4, which is just the countdown clock. So it's mostly a black image. It's 300 kilobytes for the 6 seconds, whereas the ones with the video content were 50 megabytes. So the files that it makes for the cameras that are not nothing plugged in, the angles that are not plugged in, it's not going to take up any disk space. All that live demo with no performance and anxiety. Well, I know that if I do make a mistake, we will all learn something from it, so it's fine. The lack of security on the ATEM Mini line worries me. Would hate to see them subsumed into an IoT botnet. The thing is, they're not computers, so you can't just like upload code onto them and make them do things, which is good. But yes, there is no passwords for any of the network access on them. That's just not how that stuff is made to work, which is nice that it just kind of is easier to set up. But yeah, it does mean that like you have to be aware of when you plug in these devices, any of these devices, whether it's your Hyperdeck or the ATEM or the web presenter or whatever it is, if you plug these onto, if you plug them into somebody else's network, then anything on that network can connect to them. So that is another reason that I like to bring my own router to put all of the devices behind my own router, and then nothing outside of that router can get into them. So yes, not for use on a shared network. You want to make sure you are only using it on your own network. But it's the same with the control protocol as well. Like anybody can download the software control app on their computer, and it will auto discover ATEMs on the network. So make sure that you aren't just plugging them into random networks. Sneaky Pete, thanks for the super chat. Think I missed an answer while losing Easter eggs. Should I get the ISO Extreme or is it not needed? Oh, well, I mean, it depends on what you're using it for. Totally depends on what you're doing with it. Because the ISO Extreme is not cheap. It's not a cheap device anymore. It's still very affordable for what it is, but it's not just like, oh yeah, I get it because eventually you'll need it kind of cheap, in my opinion. So if you're talking about the ISO Extreme versus the regular Extreme, I would say probably spend the $300 extra, because at some point you'll probably want the recording of 8 channels possibility. And that is, but if you're talking about the Extreme versus a not Extreme, then think about it a little longer, because the difference between 600 and 1300 is a lot different. Yeah. Oh, I got the Extreme here, but still have 2 weeks to exchange. Ah, I see. So if you have the Extreme and you're talking about upgrading to the ISO, I would definitely consider it. But again, if you're only doing live stuff ever and you're not going to be recording shows to edit, then you won't really need the recording feature. But the yeah, it's a tough one. In my opinion, the $300 is worth it though. And that's actually why I didn't even order the Extreme at all. I just went straight for the ISO, knowing that it was going to take longer to arrive anyway, because I was like, I know that I'm going to want to use the 8 recorders at some point. Oh, thanks for the super chat. The confetti isn't quite in sync with the chat. Is your mic plugged directly into your Mini's mic in? I'm using a USB condenser mic, but could not get any audio into the Mini. Is there any advice? Yeah. So I actually run my mic into my camera because it's just easier to get everything in sync that way, and it's just a lot less stuff to fiddle with. But there's the confetti. But the main thing to keep in mind here is that there is a setting in the audio tab in general, for this. And do I have my little zooming thing? I do. I should fix that to the other zooming thing. So you can choose what type of input it is. Microphone plus power, microphone, or line. So depending on what your microphone is, whether it's like a line out or a mic out, you want to make sure that's set properly. And then it should work fine. Thank you for the super chat. Okay. Oh, and another one. Bailey Stone. Thanks, great live stream. Looking to one up. Oh, sure, go for it. I mean, the more better content on YouTube, the better. Oh, there's the confetti. Thank you. Cajoling Technologies says, I finally built a macro for the frame delay on the mic input. Wish it would save when the ATEM powers down. It can. I will show you how. There is a secret for this, which is File, Save, Startup, State. Click that. It bakes all the settings into the ATEM, and it will resume everything when it powers back on. Quick tip of the day. And then do the question about ATEM Mini or ATEM Mini Pro. I would say almost definitely ATEM Mini Pro. If you're talking about having only one device for using in your shows, definitely Pro or ISO. You get the multi-view, you get the streaming built in and recording. If you're going to have only one, I would just go with the Pro and not bother with the Mini. The Mini, however, is great if you need to add more inputs to stuff, where you're going to be using something else for the streaming. So adding more inputs to the YOLO box, adding more inputs to another ATEM Mini, or adding multiple inputs in whatever it is, that's what it's good for, because it's so cheap for that. Okay, everyone is waiting. Extreme stand. Yes. So let me first switch my super source. That's what I need to do. So I'm going to show you this on the iPad first. So I just need to go in here, change box 2 to the one that has my iPad on it. And see, I need to crop it. I need to crop it so that you don't get the little black bars on the sides. This is what I need to save into a macro so that I can do this immediately. I'm just very picky about this. Okay, here we go. This is the 3D modeling software that I'm using for this, by the way. So this is what I actually use to create this model. And this is almost final. It's still draft. This is still not the exact final model that is being created, but it is very close. And there's a couple of new things on this, and I can go show you the prototype I've printed as well. But we have easier access to the screws, since I know that people were complaining about getting their fingers in the little, oops, don't know what just happened there. Getting the fingers in the little space to set those up. So I got rid of the other bar. This one's going to be a little bit tricky still, and the top one is now accessible from the side. So you can get into that from the side there, which is nice. And we've still got the cold shoe on both sides. We've still got the monitor or the spot for the monitor mount cheese bar in there. However, in this case, it is actually structural. Whereas before it was just kind of there, but it's actually holding the two parts together now. And then because I don't want an asymmetrical gap on the front, we have this little faceplate that goes on the front to cover that up as well. And the sides have new clips, so it'll actually hold down. That'll be like an optional add-on because not everybody needs it, but it can actually hold down the ATEM, and it's got little side supports too, so that it keeps it from sliding left to right. And then the back has the same cold shoe. We're adding new screw holes. So these two screw holes are just there because then you can make add-ons. You'll be able to actually add stuff, attach it to the back there, and people can design add-ons as long as you have the right screw hole spacing. You can just make whatever you want. And then the side holes are for the same two cheese bars as before, the 1091, the one that goes on the top, and the larger one. Don't know if I have those handy. So those both attach to the side as well in the same way. And then the back has a little kickstand here, which you can attach if you want. That's also going to be optional. And this is, again, to keep it from tipping. And this is something that, like, I'm gonna figure out a way to make this work on the original Mini as well, but the Mini stand as well. But depending on how much weight you've got on the top bar and the angle, it can tip over. But with those little stoppers on the back, it is a lot stronger. So that's something that is new in this design. Eventually, I hope to port that to the original Mini design as well. Oh, Keith, thank you for the super chat. All we need is a Hyperdeck attachment with room to vent. The Hyperdeck, interesting, yeah. Let me get through this one first, and then we'll talk about new models. The height of this is, where was the, oh yeah, so here's the question about stacking 2 extremes. It's the same idea as the original stand, where the amount that this is raised off of the ground is enough for a second extreme to be below it with the ports accessible from underneath. So you can put one on the table and then one on the stand. And then a monitor on top, or a monitor in each cold shoe if you want to do 2 monitors that way. A lot of options there. And PKI edition, no, it's PK1. It's got the little 1 there. PK1 Extreme. This one is called the PK1 Extreme. So, question. Is this ready for mobile case installation? It's not really meant for that. That wasn't my intent with designing this. My intent was designing it for desk use. But I would be curious to see if anybody does put it in a mobile case, because I did add that screw hole here in the middle. That doesn't, I don't have any plan for that. But you could, it's big enough for a 1/4 inch screw, so you could screw down into something else, like a piece of wood or a piece of another cheese bar down there that's part of the case. But it wasn't really my goal with this, but if you do want to use that, I would love to see it. Shut up and take my money. Yeah, I will gladly. So very soon, very soon. We're hoping to have the order page up next week. Thanks for the side slipping stops. 3D printed, yeah. So this is a 3D printed thing. Like, I'm designing it as a 3D printed project. It is, when it's manufactured, it is 3D printed. The people that are manufacturing it, I'm actually having only one company manufacture it this time. It's the Inox company that sells it out of the EU and Australia. They're the only ones making it this time. They are very attentive to detail, and they have good quality filament they use with it. And I wanted to, because this is so much bigger and more complicated, like, you can't tell just in this picture, but I can go and turn off layers. There's so many parts to this that make it a lot more complicated, and I want to have a more consistent end product. So let me turn off some of these layers. Like, if I show you the bottom bars are made up of 2 pieces. This is a draft. It's not going to look exactly like that, but there's the clips. Let's see, the back clips. The rear feet are separate pieces. Here's the sides. So, that's one piece, and then the faceplate covers that up, and then the top bar is 2 pieces as well. So each of these is like a pretty, it's not a small, it's not a small thing anymore. And I want to make sure that the end result that people are getting is consistent and is what I have in mind. So that's why we're going with just one printer, and then I'll be able to manage the consistency of that product a lot better. Have I done any stress analysis simulation on the model? Any concern of fatigue stress at certain joints from repeated button presses? I have not done any formal analysis of this. I don't really know how. I'm not a trained engineer. I'm doing this all by feel. A lot of it is just my own intuition of how I think joints should work and where I am picturing the loads on the different joints and how the load transfers around. But it's all just in my head by feel. I've not done any formal analysis on it. That said, if you look at it, the ATEM sits in like that. I think I have an ATEM in here. There it is. The ATEM sits in, oh, now I got a bunch of other stuff on there too. The ATEM sits in like that, right? So and the side piece is all one piece. So there aren't any joints in the side piece. The only joint is on the top bar to the side piece. And then the side piece, because I think it's technically over-engineered. Like, I think technically I could have got away with a much smaller, like the thickness of this, for example, probably technically could be a lot thinner in order to support the weight it needs to support and be strong enough. So I think it's way overbuilt. but it's also very strong. So you're not gonna, I would not worry about like pushing down, causing any problems. Let me actually go jump over to the table to show you the prototype that I have. Let's see if this is gonna work. I need my keyboard, and question is, are you hearing me still? Yes, okay. So over here, I can show you the prototype. And Andre says, old school by feel engineering should work. This is not a SpaceX rocket, and even that has failed before. Fair. Yeah, you built this on an iPad. Yeah, it's an iPad-based 3D modeling tool. I love it. It's great. Okay. So the stand I have here this is what it looks like. This is, again, my prototype, not the final one. So, for example, you will notice that the quality of the sides is not necessarily great because that's my printer doing this, not the production printers. So the production ones will look a lot better. But this is just to prototype it, to test it out. And so you can see it's got the little clamps to hold this in. But check this out. It totally holds it. It's not even wiggling a little bit. It's solid in there. So I'm pretty happy with that. It is a solid block now. And yeah, so the top bar, this is the main thing I'm concerned about as far as the engineering goes, where it's a long span, and that means if any of the weight is, all the weights of the monitor's in the center, right? So if you push down, you can see it's kind of flexing, but it's actually like, I'm pushing reasonably hard. I don't know, I don't have a scale on my finger, but it's probably a few pounds of pressure, and it's not flexing too much. All of the stress is happening at this spot here. So specifically right where where it joins. And so I made this thicker than the last one to help there. And that's where all the stress is. And it's doing a reasonably good job of holding it. I can even like pick it up from that, which I don't know if I would recommend doing this because I can feel it bending tiniest bit when I pick it up, but it does work. So yeah, Feelworld T7 goes on top, or probably actually like this is the Blackmagic one, which is on top of the ISO back there, which is definitely, I would say, about the weight limit of what this little stand can handle, just because it's so, yeah, it's so heavy. But it should support a 7-inch, no problem. I think it may even support the 10-inch one that I have, the one that I'm looking at as a teleprompter right now. So I'm going to try that probably later today, do some photos with that one. And yeah, other than that, it's looking pretty good. So if you really want to over-engineer it, build a cover for the Fade to Black, I definitely was thinking about that. And I don't want to sell that one because that's just, I feel like a little bit specific. But if you notice this little clip, where's that camera? That little clip is a separate piece, right? You saw that in the model. You could definitely build that clip that also extends out over here, and if it just went around there and happened to cover up the button, it would be able to attach here. So someone can design that, or I might design it as a 3D model. Probably not going to sell that as a part, but yeah, pretty cool. Is that a cold shoe mount 2X on top? It is. So it is on the top is the cheese bar, same cheese bar as before. So you'll be able to screw things into it like monitor clamps. But then on the sides, where's the light? On the sides, that is a cold shoe mount. So you can attach monitors on that if you want, or microphone receivers or whatever you want. Oh, and I've got a cold shoe on the back for this little smaller SSD holder as well. What app do you use to live stream like this? Oh, I've talked about that all day long, right? That's just my normal, it's the ATEM Mini and a bunch of stuff I've rigged up to it. What are your plans with the Core 2 on the desk? That is how I'm switching camera angles. So I can switch between this angle, and this is the one I made from in that video. Where's my, there it is. And switch to the side angle. So that's what I'm using for this right now. Okay, what else can I, overbuilding is fine. Will you add back some of these improvements to the old stand? That's a good question. I want to, and I think the way I'm going to do that is, I don't know. I want to. It's complicated. So I think I will, yeah, I will save that for later. Thanks. If you continue to have concerns about the back bar, remember that bending strength is related to thickness cubed. Yep. That's how I think about it, but without the math. Yeah, I haven't done any math on this thing. You may keep in mind that a deck saver may also come to cover the Extreme. Will it fit? Yes, I did talk to them. They are working on an Extreme version of the deck saver, and what I've done is there's no way to make the deck saver work with the clips. That's just not really possible. So the idea is the clips are actually a separate item if you want them, and not everybody's going to need them. So you'll be able to buy the clips if you want them. And if you don't buy the clips, I've left the same spacing to allow the deck saver to fit on top. So it'll fit, because this part will come off, and the deck saver will fit on top just like the previous stand for the Mini. And yeah, I've been planning on that all along. It's not really a good way to make it work with the clamps and the deck saver because, yeah. When do you think it will be ready to be sold? I think it will be ready. The plan right now, the current plan is that we will be putting up the web pages and having the order forms available on the 11th, which is next week. We'll be launching that live, hopefully talking about that at this time next week. And it'll be available at the Inox 3D EU and Australia stores, as well as DVE store. So you'll be able to order it then. And the shipping date will be the 26th. So it'll be basically 2 weeks after that. And that is to give us enough time to make them, because these take a long time to print. I don't know if you know anything about 3D printing, but it is, very slowly, layer by layer, layering plastic up to build these parts. And this version is so much bigger than the original stand. And it is more than double the print time. So I think I haven't done the final count, but it's around 20 hours of printing to make this. And that just means that there's a finite number that can be created in a week. And you have to get more printers to be able to print more, and those cost money. So we have several printers that are going to be running these things. I think they're already in the middle of printing them right now. So they are, yeah, they're running literally right now. And it's very close to this one is the just before the final model prototype version. So it's almost exactly this, but not quite, some minor differences. And those are running, and we are going to have a bunch ready like by next week, but we're going to start shipping them on the 26th, which will give us 2 additional weeks to make sure we are making enough based on the orders that are coming in. How about an optional extra horizontal that can be added vertically so it can be doubled up for additional strength to hold those heavier items? The problem with adding stuff vertically, that was my first thought when I was like, oh, I'm going to have to, my first thought was I'm going to have to do a vertical bar to hold this middle up. Otherwise, it's going to be not strong enough. And it turns out that actually this by itself does hold a decent amount of weight. The problem with doing anything vertical is that there's not a lot of space between these HDMI ports. Like you can see, there's barely, it's only a few, maybe 4 or 5 millimeters between the HDMI ports. So, and then the HDMI cable, they all vary in thickness. So you can get some HDMI cables that are slim, but other ones will have extra stuff around them. So I don't actually know how wide your cables are when you go to use it. So I don't actually know how much space there will be between those based on what you're plugging in. So there's not a lot of room to do a vertical thing in the middle without blocking one of the ports, which would not be good. And that's why I was like, okay, if I can do it without a vertical support, I will, because it's going to be too annoying to have to add a vertical support somehow. So that is, yeah, that's the idea. So it is pretty strong. If you need additional weight, putting the weight on the sides would help. So if you are putting a monitor here, it'll support more weight because it's putting less. I remember this all from physics, but I don't remember the names for anything. When the load is here, because of the lever, it's putting more force at this joint compared to when the load is here. It would take more of a pressure to put the same force at this joint. So if you put heavier things on the sides, it'll support more weight there. And you can just tell it by feel. Like if I'm pushing, I have to push really hard here before I feel like it's about to break. Whereas here I can tell if I could at some point push too hard and it'll break. But over here, I don't even think I could push hard enough to break it. That's what I mean. I do this all by feel. Very scientific. What is the fill density? I've been printing at 15% and 15% fill at the 0.15 millimeter layer height. But when I publish the STL files, I will make sure to include all that in that as well. Is this mountable to a tripod, or is there already a solution out there? I have to operate a camera and switch at the same time at a gig. I would probably not say this is a tripod mountable, because the only additional mounting points on this are on the sides. So there's that hole here, but you would need obviously one on each side in order to hold it, and there's definitely not room or strong enough to mount it from the center here. So this is designed to be a desk stand. It is really meant to be a desk stand. Make a fade to black cover with a hole. You can push it if you want to and can't push it accidentally. A little flip up thing, that'd be fun. Yeah, it needs a flip cover. I've seen, there's a bunch of these covers on Thingiverse already, actually, of fade to black covers that just, you set them on the ATEM. I don't think you need the back stand. If you mean the little legs out the back, you definitely don't always need them. So these little things are acting as, they help it from tipping that way. And without them, I mean, the ATEM Mini Extreme is a lot heavier than the Mini. So this is actually doing a lot of work of holding down when there's a monitor up here, pushing, like pulling it that way. This is already doing a lot of work to hold it in place. But these little things do help give it additional strength that it would otherwise tip over. So like here's one of my prototype ones. If you have it without the back leg, it could tip that way depending on how much weight is on that, right? So you can see that if I'm just pushing here, I can tip it over. But as soon as there's a little back stop, I don't have an extra one, but as soon as you have the little back stop on it, it takes a lot more force to tip it that way. The Core 2 is the next giveaway clue. I don't have any plans to do another giveaway yet. Right now, the next giveaway plan is at 50K, which will be a long time from now. The price. Should I announce the price right now? I think we're finalized on it. The price will be, I don't remember the Euro price. It's going to be, there's three parts to it. There's the stand, there's the back legs, and there's the clips for holding it down. And the stand by itself will be, I think it's $119 US. Now I actually can't remember if that's correct. I'm pretty sure that's correct. And the back legs and the clips will be, I think it's $14.99 each. And that comes to just under $150 for the whole kit. And I know it's quite a lot more than the original stand, but the original stand is, I probably should have priced it a little bit higher for one. But also this is a lot more complicated. This is a lot more engineering. It's a lot more print time. It's a lot more material. And it's going to be, yeah, we're consolidating the manufacturing of it, so it'll be a more consistent product that you get as well. To give you an idea of how much time this has taken, I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't publish any videos in March other than the announcement video of this stand, of my first stand, because literally all the time that I have available to work on this stuff of, you know, the YouTube time, then that has been going entirely into designing this. It has been many early mornings and late nights, which is when I have free time for this, going into this design, and a lot of doing test prints. I can show you how many test prints I've done, which all take time. Here's an early version. I don't even remember what's different about this one. Oh, it's missing one of the back screw holes. This one is the first one I did with the additional side lip, but then we changed it to be the rounded one, which I just realized is not even on this model. It's going to be a little rounded, so it'll look a little nicer. Oh, and then I had to do the screw hole for the clips. This was an early test of a different way that worked. Way back, I had a totally different way of doing the bottom feet, which is just too impractical for printing when you're doing long, straight things. I have things like this all over my desk. This is actually just finished this morning right before the live stream. This is a test print for the bottom bars. The 3D printed version that I'm going to offer as an STL file is going to be slightly different from this, because I want to make sure that you can actually print it well and reliably. There's a couple of things about this design that make it difficult for cheaper printers, and I don't want you to fail when you print it on your own printers. So I'm doing things a little bit different for the STL file to make sure that it'll be more reliable on cheaper printers. So one of the differences is the way that the bottom works. It's actually going to be just a metal rod that you can buy that you will insert into. You'll insert the metal rod into that top hole. Got to find the light. There's the light. Into the top hole. There's a square nut there, and then a screw goes in from the bottom to put pressure on it to hold it in place. And yeah, the screw head's probably going to have to stick out, which means you're going to need to put the little rubber feet on it to cover that up. And that's going to save you from having to print the very long bars, which are risky on some printers. Getting it perfectly straight is sometimes hard. I've seen some prints fail where it like bends up on the side. So there's gonna be a couple minor differences like that in the 3D printed version. So I am finalizing that this week. Will 2 Stream Deck XLs fit in front of the new stand? I believe so. I didn't actually measure the XL, but the Stream Deck fits under the stand, and I think the XL is only slightly thicker, so it should. What is the... Oh, gosh. Okay. Nice discussion about engineering. This would be a fun little project for an FEA class. I don't even know what FEA is. I can reach out to my colleagues. Sure. Yeah, get in touch. Brian, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Oh, super sticker. Oh, the sticker didn't come through on the website. It's a cute little dancing thing. Any consideration for a flip-up bar for holding HDMI connectors in place? Yeah, so exactly. That's actually exactly the plan for these holes. So these two holes here, where's the light? Yeah, there it is. So those two holes are for attaching additional accessories that don't yet exist. And I want anybody to be able to make these things. So I'll provide the specs for how far those are apart from each other. And you'll be able to just design stuff to fit there that you can screw on, and then you can do whatever you want with it. So somebody could make, for example, a thing that goes all the way along the back. Well, you have to be in 2 parts again because that's too long of a stretch. But you could do some sort of cable support system by attaching it to the side here and the other side. And that could be for supporting the HDMI cables. You could add in other mounting things on the side, whatever it is. So that's the reason for those 2 holes. It's for add-ons. And I'm probably not going to design one myself immediately because I've got a whole new list of things to design off of this. But I think that the guys who are manufacturing it, I think they actually might be designing some add-ons for it as well. So that should be cool to see too. Will ship to Sweden? Yes, it will be available worldwide, and it'll be shipped from EU, US, and Australia. But we can ship anywhere, so no worry. 150 is too cheap. You think so? It's always tough pricing these things. It is tough to price these, but I think we're pretty. Everybody involved in the process is okay with the amount that everybody is getting off of that. I've been learning so much about distribution and manufacturing stuff. It's fascinating. Where is the... Can you support the top bar from the top of the ATEM? It's an interesting idea. It would be awkward. And then, of course, the deck saver wouldn't fit over it. Angled support underneath the top bar. I had that in one design as well. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Great engineering. Definitely gonna buy the stand. I appreciate it. Thanks for the super chat. Yeah, I look forward to your review video on this one too. If you didn't see Petra's review video, go check it out. I have a link on. I just tweeted out the link on my Twitter at AaronBK. Great video. I'm wondering if this goes through our customs here in Istanbul. It'd be interesting to declare and see the feedback. It should. It should be fine. And yeah, we should be able to ship anywhere. It's just a matter of making sure that your local mail is working. You can't order it yet. So close, so close. On the 11th, you can order it. For a tripod set, you can use a tripod mountable tray. Yeah, okay, totally. That would work. So if you have a tray that, especially if it's exactly wide enough and has ways you could screw into the tray, then that would be a great way to actually do it to put this onto a tripod. It is it's pretty big. I don't know if I would want this on a tripod. I feel like a tripod, like just one mounting point in the center is not quite enough. You might provide a link to a 300 millimeter universal lengthened quick release plate on Amazon, 12-inch wide cheese plate. The whole thing is 372 wide, 372 millimeters wide. So 300 is a little bit short and would only touch the bottom bars, which isn't quite enough support for that. You would need to go up to a 400 millimeter to be able to make sure that the side, the actual legs touch. I wouldn't want to support it only from these bottom bars. These are not support vertically. These are support to prevent the sides from pulling away. Okay, cool. I think that's all the questions. Yeah, was there anything else? Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a good process of working on this. I've learned a lot, both about manufacturing, about designing, about constraints in shipping. One of the constraints was we don't want to have to ship parts longer than like 7 inches because then it just explodes to shipping cost. And so yeah, making it fit. Assemble in pieces has been part of the goal here. It's a lot. It's been a lot of fun though. Can you mount it on a slide out 19-inch rack tray? You could, but again, it's tall. It's very tall, so it would take up like I didn't even consider the height of it when I was figuring out how tall to make it in terms of like is it 4U or 5U. It would eat up a lot of rack space. I don't know if I would recommend that. Again, like it's really meant to be a desk stand. I think there's gonna be better things you can do if you want something you can clamp onto a C stand or something that goes into a rack mount gear. So well, I'm sure we'll see other products come out for those kinds of solutions as well. Okay, back to the desk. I think we're done here. And, oh, yep. Lights are yellow from the super chat. Thanks. Oh, I forgot my keyboard. Kind of need that to use my computer. Thank you. Thanks for the nice comments. I have a question about embedded audio on SDI. Is there a possibility to route specific channels to specific outputs on the video hub? The way that the video hub works is it is basically like taking a cable and plugging it into something else. So you don't get to route audio and video separately. It's just this thing is now over there. And audio comes with the video, of course, but it's not, you can't route the two separately. It's always just, it's just in the signal. Great, okay. I think that's about it for today. Yeah, so again, next week is when I will be announcing, I'll be sharing the links where you can actually order this. That'll have the final price in your local currency. You'll have the shipping information as well by then. And then they will start shipping on the 26th. So the Monday, 2 weeks after the live stream. So hopefully if you got the original stand, hopefully those have been arriving. I've been seeing some nice tweets and pictures coming my way. So again, feel free to send me pictures of your setups. I love seeing them in the wild. And I am Aaron PK on Twitter and AaronPK_TV on Instagram. Long story. I'm sure I'll share that at some point. But the yeah, that's the deal. Thank you all for watching. Link to delivery. Everything will be linked next week once the links are up. They don't exist yet because I still have to take photos, which is what I'm doing after this stream. I'm going to go and take that stand, deck it out with some monitors, and take some pictures in the studio with the lights, and that'll be the product shots for the launch. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next week.